Hello, children. Here we are going to start the next chapter, the First War of Independence, 1857. Here we have the list of causes for the First War of Independence: political causes, socio religious causes, economic causes, and military causes. Important political causes are British policy of expansion, disrespect shown to Bahadur Shah, treatment given to Nana Sahib and Rani Lakshmi Bai, absentee sovereignty of the British. Now we will study the political causes in detail. First, British policy of expansion. The British expanded their political power in India in four ways: by outright wars. To expand their territory in India, British fought many wars. For example, War of Buxar, Anglo-Mysore War, Third Anglo-Maratha War, and Second Anglo-Sikh War. System of subsidiary alliance. Lord Wellesley introduced this system in which Indian states were brought under the British control without annexing them. Under this system, Indian rulers agreed to, means they accepted, the following demands: accept British as supreme power and foreign relations, and would not enter any alliance or wars. British resident at their headquarters, and would not employ any European without consulting. Maintain British troops at their own cost. Virtually lost independence. Besides these two policies, there were two other policies like Doctrine of Labs and alleged misrule. Doctrine of Labs. Lord Dalhousie annexed many Indian states using Doctrine of Labs, according to which heirs adopted without consent of the company. They could not inherit, they could inherit only the private property of the deceased ruler, and his territory would come under the company's control. For example, in 1853, ruler of Jhansi died without leaving natural heir. So, widow Rani was retired, and after her retirement, their adopted son Anand Rao was not recognized as successor to throne. Similarly, state of Satara, Nagpur, Udaipur, they faced the same problem of doctrine of lapse. Another policy was on the pretext of alleged misrule. Lord Dalhousie annexed Awadh on 13th Feb 1856 on the pretext of alleged misrule. British broke their promises given to ruling chiefs. People had to face more hardship, had to pay higher taxes and revenues. Problems of unemployment rose, property were confiscated, and several sepoys were worst affected and did not like what British did in Awadh. Second political cause: disrespect shown to Bahadur Shah. Bahadur Shah, the Mughal ruler, was under the protection of the company and received a pension from the British. Lord Dalhousie announced that successor of Bahadur Shah Zafar would not be permitted to use the Red Fort as their palace. They were required to shift to a place near Qutub Minar. In 1856, Lord Canning announced that after the death of Bahadur Shah, his successors would not be allowed to use imperial titles with their names. This decision of the British hurt the feelings of the Muslims. Consequently, Zeenat Mahal, the wife of Bahadur Shah, began plotting against the British government because this decision of Lord Canning was really humiliating for Muslims. Third political cause: treatment given to Nana Sahib and Rani Lakshmi Bai. Nana Sahib was the adopted son of Baji Rao II, the last Peshawar. The British refused to grant Nana Sahib the pension they were paying to Baji Rao II. Nana Sahib was forced to live at Kanpur, far away from his family seat at Pune. This was widely resented in the Maratha region. Next political cause, Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi became a bitter enemy of the British when her adopted son was not accepted as the heir to the throne by Lord Dalhousie under the policy of Doctrine of Labs. The other prominent states which became victims to the doctrine of lapse were Satara, Jaipur, Sambalpur, Udaipur, and Nagpur. The other Indian rulers who were not adversely affected became suspicious lest they should meet the same fate. These decisions had shown the seeds of rebellion. Fourth cause, absentee sovereignty of the British rulers. The earlier rulers, like the Mughals, who had conquered India, had in course of time settled in India. The revenues which they collected from the Indians were spent in India only. But in case of Britain, the Indians felt that they were being ruled from England and the revenue which they collected was being drained to England. And the wealth was not utilized for the welfare of the Indians. After political cause, we will discuss social religious causes. First, interference with social customs. Several reforms were done, like Sati Pratha was abolished, widow remarriage was introduced, and girls were provided with Western education. Second, apprehension about modern innovations like railways and telegraph. Indians misunderstood the telegraph poles were erected to hang them, and in railways, higher class were made to be seated with lower caste. Third, policy of racial discrimination. Disrespect and ill treatment was shown to the Indians. Corruption in administration. Rich were allowed to go away after crime, and the poor innocent people were looted and tortured. Oppression of the poor. They were beaten, tortured, and imprisoned. Fear regarding Western education. Pandits and Maulavis feared that it is done to convert their children to Christians. Taxing religious places. Lands belonging to temples and mosques, these places were taxed, which hurt the sentiments of the poor people. Now, economic causes. Exploitation of economy, drain of wealth, decay of cottage industries and handicrafts, growing unemployment, inhuman treatment of indigo cultivators, poverty and famines, economic decline of peasantry, decline of aristocracy. First, economic cause, economic exploitation. India was forced to export cotton, silk at cheaper rates to England, and this was raw, forced plantation of indigo and tea. Indians had to accept ready made British goods. Indians' products had high import duties in England. Indian handmade products could not compete with machine made British products. Problem of unemployment increased in India. India had no agricultural surplus, which raised the prices of raw material in India. So Indians, they were exploited because they were forced to sell raw material at cheaper rate to the Britishers, and even India was made the market for the ready made goods. Second economic cause, drain of wealth. After Battle of Plassey, British stopped bringing gold to India, and raw material was bought in England from the surplus revenues of Bengal and started looting India's raw materials, India's resources, as well as wealth. The transfer of wealth from India to England is called drain of wealth. Third economic cause, decay of cottage industries and handicrafts. Heavy duties killed Indian cottage industries and handicrafts. Imported British goods worsened their condition. Export of cotton and silk was seized. Art of spinning and weaving was killed, creating severe unemployment. Then absence of royal buyers, princes and zamindar. These were not there were no royal buyers because what happened that the raw material was directly purchased by the Britishers, and the other people they were forced to purchase only the manufactured good. The fourth economic cause, growing unemployment. Then, fifth economic cause, inhuman treatment of indigo cultivators. Britishers were really cruel towards indigo cultivators. They forced plantation of indigo. Other crops were destroyed if did not follow the orders, and cattle were taken away as punishment. Sixth, poverty and famines. Minor famines, British did not bother. Next cause, economic decline of peasantry. Peasants had to pay heavy taxes and land revenues. Next economic cause, decline of landed aristocracy. Hereditary landlords and talukdars, at least 2,000 estates were confiscated who could not produce evidences of ownership and auctioned. Merchants and moneylenders bought these estates and exploited tenants. So, in this manner, the farmers, the peasants, they suffered. Now, next is military cause, ill treatment of Indian soldiers. Indian soldiers were ill treated, poorly fed, and badly housed, did not bother about their sentiments, and did not allow to keep beard, wear turbans. Second, lower salaries. Indian soldiers were paid 8 times less salaries than British soldiers. Third, deprivation of allowances. British Empire was spread across the nation and soldiers had to serve in areas away from their homes without extra payment and additional bhatta. Foreign service allowance. Free post facility for sepoys was also taken off. So, no extra allowance, which we call bhatta, was paid to soldiers. Less chances of promotions. All higher posts were reserved for British soldiers, irrespective of their performances. Indian soldiers had thin chances of promotions. They could not go above the post of Sobedar. General Service Enlistment Act. It was considered as taboo for Brahmin to cross the sea. In spite of that, British sent Indians overseas on duty and did not bother about their sentiments. Next, larger proportion of Indians in the British Army. In 1856, 238,000 Indian soldiers worked in British Army as compared to 45,322 British soldiers. Faulty distribution of troops. Strategic important places like Delhi and Allahabad had no British armies and was held by only Indian soldiers. Poor performance of British troops. So without support of Indian soldiers, British army was weak, and this fact was realized by the Indian soldiers. Also, in various other wars, British had to face defeat, and this broke the myth that British were invincible. So, Britishers proved that they were cruel administrators. So, children, with this, Causes of 1857 are completed. In next video, we will discuss about the leaders. Thank you.